couple of days ago, drove up and there was a police car that was facing, it was in the middle of the parking lot facing the driveway up. And I was curious. So I went and knocked on the window. An officer came out. His name is Captain, I think it's Colon. That's how he pronounces his name. And it's very interesting. He's one of the new precinct captains of this area. And we started talking, and he said there are all kinds of emails going back and forth. I said, what are they about? He said, relating to things with security. And he said, well, this is one of my priorities now, as is Jewish Family Services, and we're going to be a presence here. We're not talking about paying any money. He feels that this is his responsibility. And so we started talking. I gave him a tour of the sanctuary and of the rest of the building so he'd understand what's going on internally in the building. And I said, so what's going on? What do you think's going on in this crazy world? Guess what he said to me? Well, you're the chosen people.
I never thought about it.
But he said it in an interesting way. He said, well, you guys represent God's truth. And then he went on to say, well, you're God's people. We have to protect you. Such an interesting, just wanted to share that with you. Lovely gentleman. First of all, we've had such good experiences with the Kansas City Police. Since I've been here, they've been wonderful through all kinds of different events. But I really wanted to share that with you because, we can get crazy about the evil that surrounds us. There's a lot of evil, but there's a lot of goodness too. And if we don't name the goodness, we won't be able to survive the evil. And I just wanted to share that with you. So really, it's one of the best things that happened to me this past week. So let me move on. I don't have many of these left. So one of the ways that I've learned about human nature is by observing my grandchildren. From them, I've learned that sharing is not easy. In fact, it might be against human nature. In so many situations, they are obsessed with making sure that they're getting their fair share. At the dinner table, the food must be equally divided. And then there is the candy. Equal distribution is the goal, yet one of my grandchildren hoards candy in a secret hiding place in his bedroom. And of course, the other two know where it is and go hunting for it. They want equal division of the loot. When you give them presents, we need to make sure that one child is not getting something grander than another. It's hard. There's such age differences. I don't know how you decide that, but we have to kind of sense that. And when it comes to playing with them, we need to be sure that one child is not getting more attention than the other. It's all about the laws of equity. A major part of our Torah portion deals with this issue of equity. Equity among the tribes of ancient Israel. So it's a little technical, but it's worth knowing exactly what we're talking about. When the dedication of the tabernacle, the portable sanctuary, was to take place, it is stated in the book of Numbers, the chieftains, the heads of each of the tribes of ancient Israel, brought the dedication offering for the altar upon its being anointed. So they brought these dedication offerings. And as the chieftains were presenting their offerings before the altar, that's where the sacrifices took place, the Lord said to Moses, let them present their offerings for the dedication of the altar, one chieftain each day. And there were, of course, 12 chieftains for each tribe. So on 12 consecutive days, offerings were brought. So it states, and it's the most repetitive part of the Torah, but it's great if you're a Torah reader because it's basically learning the same portion over and over again, except for different names. So each of the chiefs brought the exact same thing. So let me tell you what they brought. You just should know what they brought. They said, his offering, one silver bowl weighing 130 shekels, 1 silver basin of 70 shekels by the sanctuary weight, both filled with choice flour with oil mixed in for a meal offering. 1 gold ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense. 1 bull of the herd, 1 ram, 1 lamb in its first year for a burnt offering. 1 goat for a sin offering and for his sacrifice of well-being, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, and 5 yearling lambs. This will be the new due structure for the new Reformed temple. Okay, so then there is the second day and the third day and so on. Each chieftain from each tribe gives the exact same thing. And this was an attempt to create harmony and unity. Each of the tribes were to be honored. No one tribe was more important than the other tribe. And that's why each day's offering had to be the same for each tribe and fully spelled out. But the inverse was also true. It says in the Midrash, the rabbis explain that although the gifts were identical, everyone was giving the same thing every day, the meaning and significance of each one was distinct and personal. And so God included each list separately because they were, in fact, very unique. Okay, on the surface it seemed the same, but in reality they were very different because the tribes each brought their own sense of their connection to God. Each had unique qualities, their individuality, their own approach to serving God, their spiritual vigor was part of this. And what the Torah is telling us, what the sages, I think, are telling us is uniformity weakens, diversity strengthens. I mean, this is the first example in Judaism of what we call religious pluralism, the acceptance of multiple truths. The tribes each had their own way. They were unified, but they all had their own path. Each tribe thought differently about their place within the community and the rituals of the tabernacle. Now, I love this interpretation, especially because it addresses our modern Jewish situation so clearly. We are a passionate people. That's good. We are a proud people. That's very good. We share a common heritage. That's what makes us Jews. Yet we value thinking, critical thinking. That's what Rabbinic Judaism is about for the last 2,000 years. Multiple voices, multiple approaches, discussion, debate, with a noble purpose to love God. Now, friends, we do not show our love of God by lobotomizing ourselves. If you've ever studied in a yeshiva and you're studying a daf of the Talmud, a page of the Talmud, there's a buzz of creativity in the room. Literally, you can hear there's a sound. There is debate going on within the text where different sages are challenging each other. But the voices, the thinking, the questioning of the students challenging each other, it fills the room. It has a certain buzz. It has a certain background noise. That's that same text. The text is the same. Yet the richness of diversity, of a variety of understandings is always there. And here I'm reminded of one of the great teachings of the Talmudic Judaism, and you've heard it before, but I want to repeat it again. It's the text in which a heavenly voice comes forth to resolve the generational disputes between the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. And there is this declaration: these and these are the living words of God, but the law follows the house of Hillel. And the passage goes on to claim that the reason the position of Hillel prevailed was not because the house of Hillel was more right. On the contrary, it was because they acted with decency towards the position of their discussion partners. They honored and valued differences. Now, how is that relevant to anything that we're talking about today? As beautiful as this idea of diversity is, it's really hard to achieve it in the Jewish world. This is clearly the challenge concerning the topic of Israel today. Discussing Israel is very difficult. there are these pros and cons about the significance of Israel. There is the diaspora versus Israel, living in the land of Israel. There is understanding Gaza as a righteous war versus the death of civilians. Or instead of exploring differences, conflicting perspectives, there's so little listening and honoring of differences. There's a lot of verbal warfare. It's not good time for the Jews. Now, in my rabbinate, I've been disheartened by a lack of pluralism, the inability to honor the other side. Different religious communities, different denominations, different religious authorities come to different conclusions and different approaches. Why must we take the position if I feel that I'm right, the other person must be wrong? And this kind of like underground civil war in American Judaism is something that we can't ignore. So let me talk about myself a little bit. Not out of egotism, but I think my own story kind of illustrates this point. My religious biography is a little bit confusing. I was raised in a moderately religiously identified Jewish family. My maternal grandmother kept a kosher home. In our family, we didn't eat pork or shellfish, but that was basically it. We rarely went to synagogue. When I was 12, my family switched from the conservative synagogue to the Reform synagogue, and our synagogue attendance increased. I became a bar mitzvah there and was confirmed there. And I went to college and I went through my Orthodox period. That's a whole other story. And then I decided to go to the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, where conservative rabbis are trained. I went along with a religious discipline at the seminary. You had to. But deep down I felt that many of the stringencies were unnecessary. And yet I respected the institution and valued the Judaism that I was taught, and I lived it. I served in 3 conservative synagogues of different flavors after I graduated from rabbinical school. And slowly I came to the realization that it was not my place. And I joined the Reform Rabbinate. And eventually ended up here. And it was confusing to our synagogue. Well, there were variations of this question for a long time, and then it kind of died away. It didn't go anywhere. You know, Rabbi, you spend half of your life in the conservative movement and are ordained by the ordained conservative rabbi. How do you serve in a liberal synagogue like this? Now, people outside the New Reformed Temple don't get it at all. It has worked for me because I don't think one voice in Judaism is better than another. I see the beauty in all approaches. I honor this congregation's traditions because they are authentic. Whatever synagogue I attend or whatever community I'm part of, if their approach is sincere and serious, I honor it and feel comfortable there. There's no contradiction at all. I don't want to choose. I can make an argument for all the approaches. People know me. If you want me to make an argument for anything, I'll make an argument for it. I'm not suggesting that my way is the right way. It's not for everyone. Deciding where you belong is something that's often very important. But how does it serve God and the Jewish people to spend our time deciding who is more authentically Jewish than another? And if we truly love God and love the Jewish people, we must get back to the story of the gifts of the tribal leaders. They all brought their authentic Jewish selves to the community. They approached their commitment to each other in their own unique way. And there was no real evidence at this point of any intertribal conflict. Now, friends, I don't want to embarrass my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Rudnick, but I warned him that I might speak about him. And I do it with incredible respect because I really love him on so many different levels. We were both trained as conservative rabbis. We share a love of Jewish practice, the Jewish people, the land of Israel, sacred Jewish text, the Jewish ethical responsibilities, and for the record, he's much more learned than I am. But he and I have evolved in different ways. How wonderful. He comes to our synagogue when Shabbat begins late, so he does not have to drive on Shabbat, which is his custom. He sees the authenticity and seriousness of our congregation. And when he feels a need to worship differently in a certain part of the service, he quietly steps aside and worships in a more traditional way than we do. This is my favorite part of the service, literally, because we have created a community that honors differences. God is too big and our tradition too complicated for anyone to think that we have a monopoly on the one truth or one Jewish way. How arrogant that would be for any of us to think that way, or any synagogue to think that way. Now, I have two great intellectual rabbis in my life. Rabbi Mordecai M. Kaplan, the founder of the Reconstructionist movement, who is an incredible progressive person who does not believe there is a supernatural God. I don't want to get into all the details, but he is an incredibly important and radical modern thinker. But I also have another rabbi that I read every day is Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, who's a leading voice in the Orthodox world. And they have radically different approaches to Judaism. I don't choose, I learn from both. They are both great Torah scholars. I like their different approaches, and when they conflict, that is when I learn the most. I am proud, I'm really proud that we have created a community that can honor differences and see them as a blessing, as a sign of Jewish vitality. People in the Kansas City Jewish community do not fully get our synagogue, which is okay. Many of our members don't either. And I don't mind, I mean that, I don't want to get into what I mean by that, but trust me, it's true. We are truly, and I'm so proud of it, a truly pluralistic community. Differences are nurtured. We have created a vessel which allows for diversity under one tent. And I don't hold us up as some model community. We're certainly no model community, and I'm certainly no model rabbi in any sense. But I believe we've created a wonderful Jewish canopy under which we can respect each other. No judgment, but rather a mutual admiration society. And I only pray that our leaders of our congregation fully understand that. Sometimes I don't think they do, but I think there's something of that ethos that's so important about who we are in the present and who I pray we must always be in the future. Here is what I want to hear when we engage other Jews. How beautiful is your approach? Maybe we can learn from each other. I think that the Jewish world can learn a lot from us. And I pray that we never stop celebrating our differences. Shabbat Shalom.